Okay, there we go. I think I'm now live streaming. There we go, yep, on air. So let's see if I can get the questions to start coming up here. Just a quick live stream, maybe not that quick, maybe like an hour or so, to talk through kind of anything that happens to pop into your head. You can drop it in the question section down below there, and we'll talk through it. There's kind of this lull right now between, you know, the October, November time frame where you get lots of product announcements, and then CES in the first week or second week, I guess, of January, where you get a boatload of product announcements, and now is sort of the dearth of like just selling things, so holiday sales and all that kind of goodness there. So I'm just going to make sure, there we go, I can see it now. DCR Live is showing up on the dashboard. 46 of you in there already, holy cow. So again, feel free to drop any questions you have down in the bottom there. It's honestly as simple as that. I'm going to go ahead and tweet this link out really quick, that way folks know that this is going on. But yeah, questions could be on anything from action cameras to drones to you name it, whatever you want, and we'll dive into it. And let me know if you're having any problems with audio or anything like that. We can definitely, I can try to fix that, but I think the audio should be good. I don't want to like hear or test that, because then things will get bad pretty quick. So let me know if you can definitely see something there, or hear something, no problem at all. Let's see, let me finish up that tweet. So there you go, Twitter, tweet. I keep messing around like different broadcast suites to be able to do this, and so I'm using Elgato's Game Capture, which is a free suite thing that comes with a cable doohickey I use to connect to the camera. I really want to try OBS out, which I think is Open Broadcaster Suite or something like that. I'm hoping that made it a little smoother. Like starting a YouTube thing is, or any sort of live streaming, whether it be YouTube or Facebook, is really weird. Like it's all just sort of you press something and you hope, and then you have to repeat the entire process and really hope it actually worked. I feel like there's just an opportunity to make that clean and simple. It's always different pieces of software. So anyways, answering questions now on YouTube live stream. Let's see. There we go. That's off on the Twitters. Okay, wow, lots of stuff coming in already. Here we go. So Richie's asking, any updates in your long-term test on the Vector 3S? So I've been using Vector 3s now since August, maybe late July. I can't remember exactly when, but roughly around like the first week of August, late July. And I published my in-depth review about 3 weeks ago, so definitely check that out. It's just dcrainmaker.com, and then you'll see the Vector in-depth review there. And it goes into all the data and everything. Everything looks pretty good there. I really haven't had any issues at all, of course, this entire time period. I've gone through, I think, 3 or 4 sets of Vector 3s, different, you know, like pre-production devices, then finally the final device. And then, in fact, I just installed another Vector 3 pedal on my brand new bike. So this retail box just came in like last week or something, and so I got that on here. I haven't had a chance to ride it yet. The bike is brand new, sitting there. Completed the build this morning, and so I'm hoping to get that on there. But yeah, in terms of accuracy, 0 problems at all for me. I know Shea Miller's seen like one little quirk in one scenario that he's looking into, and I think Garmin's trying to figure that out with him. I haven't seen that in my testing, and I haven't seen a lot of other comments or a lot of other test data points that I have seen don't seem to have that issue. So we've been chatting back and forth and trying to figure out what's might be going on there, whether that's like something that's specific to those particular pedals that he has, or something in the environment, or maybe just some unique scenario he's found, which is kind of the way usually power meter testing goes. It's a lot of like trial and error to figure things out. So let me scroll on down through here. Oops, there we go. Let's see, anything that can convert .fit to an earlier version so the first beat athlete can import it. You want to probably get it back to TCX is my guess. So check out dcrainmaker.com/tools. It's where I link to like all sorts of random tools, things exactly like this, like converters and that kind of stuff. So that's where I would look. I literally will list like converters exactly out that you may be looking for there. So to get, you know, usually go from TCX to fit is really easy, but going back, you gotta probably find the right tool that doesn't lose the data you want, in your case, the HRV data. Let's see. M9 Ian0G asks, how's the bike building going? Have I found the missing screws? Yes, I didn't find. I have no idea where the screws went to, but I got the missing screws. So I bought the E-Tap, so SRAM Red E-Tap, the wireless shifting, a year ago, like last October, November, and it's been sitting on my desk forever to install. And I plan on installing on a different road bike, and eventually I'm going to install on this new bike build that I started up a couple months ago, and I got all the parts in. The final parts I needed about 2 weeks ago, I think, but I've been so busy with other stuff that I haven't had a chance to really build it. I finally built it all in the last couple days. Really, I mean, it only took like probably 3 hours of total build time, but just spread over different days and stuff. So it's been kind of, anyways, it's done. I got that little $9 or whatever it was pack of screws that I had to buy online, because when I bought eTap, I bought it when I was in the States, and I had eTap like this gigantic box, like it's literally this big, it's massive, for something that's like this big, huge like waste of stuff, and so I consolidated it down to when I flew back, and apparently that tiny little bag of screws was consolidated into the trash, so I had to buy new ones. Let's see, sounds fine. It's a little bit quiet. I can turn it up a little bit if it's a little bit quiet. Let's see, so there we go. It should get up a little bit there, a little louder, and if that's loud enough. Carlos asks, is PowerPod a good power meter? Is PowerPod a good meter? It's not bad. It's not like the best power meter out there, because of the way it measures power, but it's also really, really good as an affordable option to understand power, start using power. I'd say in a lot of ways it's just as good as a left-only power meter. It's like a Stages or even Vector 3S, you know, the left side only. There are pros and cons to all those, and so when you get into kind of like this category of not a complete full direct force power meter that captures both sides either independently or just total power, there are catches, and so the PowerPod does some really cool stuff. I think PowerPod can do some really cool stuff that start looking more aerodynamic side of things, so if you combine that with the power meter, a lot of potential there. They do some of that today within their software and platform, but it's not quite as easy to use as it probably could be. Robin Crimp asks, hi, is there any computer platform, Mac or Windows, which works better with GoPro? From a computer standpoint, no. I mean, pretty much anything is going to work with GoPro. It's really a question of what editing software you're using. So me personally, I primarily use Final Cut Pro, and 10.4 was just released last week, and that now finally has GoPro Hero 6 compatibility, which is the HEVC 2H.265. Which is awesome. Now I can finally edit stuff without having to convert everything forever. Final Cut, or not Final, but Premiere Pro has already had that compatibility in for a while, so you're pretty much good there. That works on both Windows and Mac, but those are kind of expensive. There's a lot of cheaper options out there that you may want to check out as well, but those are sort of what I use, and I just happen to use Final Cut Pro because it's easiest for me, not because it's better than Premiere Pro. That's like a religious thing, like Democrats versus Republicans. It's religious battle, doesn't really matter. Pick a side, you're all good. Let's see. Do you expect Garmin to announce a new Fenix at CES next month? No, probably not. I think, you know, they've historically done like something every January, February timeframe, where they've kind of said, you know, we're going to announce a new Fenix in that time frame, but not necessarily always at CES. And so if you look back over the course of the Fenix series, some of them have been at CES announcements, but not all of them actually have. And so I think there's also a challenge Garmin has, and you know, switching to what is effectively a yearly development cycle. That's something that they've managed to do up until now, but I think the constraints of what they're doing technologically get more complex as they have to add more layers of hardware in there. So if we talk about things like NFC payments, that's another layer of things they have to add in there, versus in the past it was more software focused as opposed to adding new hardware features, which tend to take more time, especially if they're new for a company like Garmin, where it's not just, you know, rinse and repeat every single time. And we saw NFC payments, contactless payments come in with the Vivoactive 3, and so I think, you know, we'll see that as kind of like the standard going forward. So that's my guess there. Richie asks, I heard the Bluetooth broadcast does not work with the Vector 3s right now. That's correct. So Garmin has their Bluetooth broadcasting piece, the power piece. It's supposedly sitting with the Bluetooth SIG, which is the group, the Bluetooth basically control group, whatever you want to call it, special interest group, and they are approving that from a certification standpoint. That takes a few weeks. It sounds like Garmin was hoping to have that at the latest out now by early January. Maybe we'll have it for a Christmas present. I'm not quite sure. I have been using a beta version of it. It works awesome. Actually works better than every other Bluetooth pedal-based power meter transmission works, which is sort of funny given that Garmin owns Amp Plus, which is a direct competitor to Bluetooth, and they managed to do the Bluetooth stuff better than everyone Kind of funny. The reason why it's better than everyone else is because when you use like the PowerTap P1 pedals or the Favero Asioma pedals or any other split left-right system, that will actually deliver only left and only right power individually. So if I go to Zwift, for example, and I pair it to a PowerTap P1 pedals or the Favero Asioma pedals, I have to choose left or right. I actually can't choose both. I can't merge them together, which is sort of a huge bummer for a lot of apps. There are some head units that can merge them together, but almost no apps can. So it's cool that Garmin actually merges it behind the scenes, so it shows up as a single power meter, single whole inclusive feed. So you get all your data, not half your data, so you're not throwing away half your power meter. So that's kind of cool. Hopefully that'll happen though really soon out to the public. What are your opinion on the price increase with Zwift? Justified? I think it is, to be honest. I think what they deliver, what they're delivering, what they've been doing is justifiable. They've put a crap ton of stuff in there. I think that's it is impressive to see how much they've stuck in there, and I think that's pretty cool to get to the point where they feel like they can justify that. And so that's something that I think they've done a good job there. I do think, you know, they are under a lot of pressure, obviously, from investors. They have a massive amount of investors behind them. That's why they're able to do what they're able to do. And so they have these goals. And I wrote a big post on this about a month or two ago at the time of the price increase, talking about some of those challenges they're going to have going forward. So I think they handled it well in terms also of saying it's going to become in effect a year from now as opposed to immediately, though for existing users, though I can see why folks that may not have signed up yet, you know, if I was in Zwift's shoes, I probably would have said you have a 1 week window to sign up for Zwift and lock in your rate. Otherwise, you're paying the higher price. I think that would have driven subscriptions. Let's see. Chris Kennedy asked, I think you probably just may have typed this while I was talking, but have you and Shane figured out the strange Vector 3 data? No, Shane has collected a boatload of data, like an incredibly impressive amount of data actually, on all these different interesting scenarios. That data has been shared with Garmin, it's been shared with me, it's gone back and forth with lots of people looking at it, trying to eliminate what the cause could be, whether the cause is vector or the cause is something else. That's sort of the catch with all this stuff, is that there's a lot of times where I think it may be a product, and then I dig way deeper than I wanted to, and I get down a huge rabbit hole, and eventually find out it's not the product at all, it's something else. And that may be the case here, or it may legitimately be something with that particular set of vectors. I've got a lot of vector pedals, and I haven't seen that issue yet on the Vector 3s floating around here. I've done a lot of erg mode work, so it's a bit hard to know at this point. But hopefully you'll get that sorted out really soon and be good to go. Ray asks, how the Garmin power meter measure, how does a Garmin run power measure work? About the same as the rest of them. You know, there's lots of like debate on which running power meter is right or wrong, and the reality is that anyone who says one is right and one is wrong is full of crap, basically, because there's no way you can validate that outdoors. You can validate some of that indoors, but that assumes you even agree on the definition of running power. And like, if there was a whole Twitter storm that I accidentally started with a bunch of scientist peoples that, you know, can't even disagree on how to define running power. There's different definitions of how you do that, and so I think running power is really interesting. I think it's definitely without question going to be where the future of running pace-like data goes. But right now there's too many caveats. The fact that you can't account for wind, though you can with Garmin, but only if the wind station matches where you're going. You can't with Stride or Run Scribe. You can't account for different terrain differences, like if I go run in the sand, for example, or trails and stuff, that's different. I think it's interesting to watch. Like, my recommendation is, if you've got a Garmin unit that's compatible with it, and you happen to have the right strap to the pod, install the widget or the data field and just record data. Just let it record behind the scenes. It doesn't hurt you, it doesn't cost you anything, it's totally free. And record data for like 6 months, and then next spring, hopefully Garmin will have done something to make it actually on their website usable and reportable and figure outable. You can see the data on the website, but you can't really analyze it in any sort of meaningful way. And so it'd be cool to see, like, longer term what that data looks like. Let's see. Chris asks, how would you, I just clicked something I shouldn't have clicked now. I went way down in the questions. How would you rank the watt bike, Adam, compared to, say, the Tacx Neo or the Wahoo Kicker? Different. I love the watt bike. I think it's great. I do think I have concerns and issues with the shifting side of things, in particular with Zwift, but for like erg mode and stuff, it's awesome. Whereas the Tacx Neo is more throw your bike on. Obviously the Kicker's throw your bike on. For me personally, if I had one trainer, it would be likely the Neo that I would use day in and day out, or maybe the Kicker if I was planning on getting Climb, but primarily the Neo. P90 Puma asks, any news on the CDA Aero measuring offerings? Yes, there's lots of news, and I just got to write it up. I've got, and one of the companies sent me a massive, like really impressive actual report just a day or two ago on the ride I did back with them this fall. I think that may have been like a passive way of saying, hey, you forgot about us yet. But I've got like different, I went and rode with all these different companies, and I just been so slammed with stuff. But this is like my time on the airplane going to CES is probably going to be writing up all these posts on the different aero testing things I did with outdoor and stuff. So cool stuff. Let's see. Are you related to Fozzie Bear? No, regrettably not. But you never know. What is a Ferrari of fitness trackers in the industry? I don't know. I mean, I guess, people like to look at something like the Apple Watch and maybe say that's a Ferrari of sorts, but only in the sense of being a really, really good smartwatch, not really a great fitness watch. It's sort of a tough question because it depends on what you value. Like, that's the really tough part. It's why actually years ago I removed any sort of like ranking system from my my product comparison tools, as I didn't want to like assign scores anymore, because I realized that what I value something for a given score, like if I gave someone an 8 on a given product and someone else gave it a 9, like, it became really hard to justify that because it was based on what I found valuable in that product. And so for me, one thing is totally different than another thing. It just depends on what you want out of a product, what your features are. Let's see. Jason Harris, is there a 2018 predictions blog post coming? No, I stopped doing the prediction posts back, I think probably like 4 or 5 years ago, mostly because I know too much. So at this point, I kind of know what's happening, basically, more or less, for a while. In fact, it's funny, I'm going to Australia for 3 months after CES, so I've got like a week and a half left, then I go to CES, and then I go straight from CES the wrong way around the world to Australia. I'm going to spend 3 months down there, starting with a tour down under, and just, there's really no good reason to be in Northern Europe in the middle of winter, so Australia it is, nice and warm, and I'm trying to like mentally figure out every single item I need to use and compare with for the next, basically till April 1st. So like, if X watch is coming out, what watches I want to compare it against while I'm there. So I'm like, it's a big like complex jigsaw puzzle of everything I might need, like every accessory I might need for an action camera, a drone, or a watch, or a bike computer for 3 months, and then testing for power meters for 3 months. Like, I'm gonna have a lot of luggage. It's kind of a mess. Taylor Peterson, do you edit your videos on the ThinkPad? No, definitely not. I'm on a MacBook Pro. This actually is a very capable ThinkPad, but I just use Final Cut Pro, and that's only available on Mac. Any plans from anyone for Shimano DA Ultegra compatible power meter pedals? I don't think so at this point. I mean, obviously in the past, Garmin had Vector 2 and 1 that were compatible, maybe just Vector 2 that was compatible with Shimano. You could just swap out this cartridge thing. And Garmin said they've left the door open for that, but it hasn't happened yet for Vector 3. So my guess is that we'll probably see them do exactly what they did in the past, which is to stabilize first the product line, stabilize the Vector 3, and then see some sort of accessory upgrade kit down the road. I can see that being like a great Sea Otter thing next spring. That's just total and complete random speculation, by the way. But typically speaking, Garmin times announcements to Sea Otter for cycling or Eurobike or Interbike for cycling. Let's see. Is Garmin set to make any significant updates to the Garmin Fenix series at this point in the upcoming year? So I just talked about that a little bit ago. Planet Gas asks, using Trainer Road Kicker 40935, what is the best way to upload without duplicating? TR uploads my rides to GC. I've been uploading both rides, then deleting the 4runner data on GC. Is there a better way? No. Nope, there's not a better way. I do the same thing. I duplicate everything and then deconflict later on, and there's not. Like, I think actually Garmin understands this, and the reason why they understand this is because that's why there's Bluetooth Smart on the Vector 3 pedals, is because they said they were seeing problems where people were basically ignoring their Garmin or having to duplicate their Garmin because they wanted to get the data into Zwift and Trainer Road. And so I think there's something that the industry is looking at in general as to how to make it so that you have a cohesive picture between your head unit and the Zwift and Trainer Roads of the world. And to be clear, both Zwift and Trainer Road can solve this problem tomorrow. They could develop Connect IQ apps that would basically integrate this all and make it super clean. There are still some outstanding questions there though. Like if you have a Connect IQ app that controls Training Road and Zwift, and then it records the data there, it's still going to put it up to Garmin. So how do you dedupe that? I don't know. There's I think ways people can do that if they sit down in the room and try to figure that out. But right now it's basically just got to delete something. On your left, ask, is the Vivoactive 3 still a good buy? Yeah, I think it's a great buy. It's something that my mom was actually, she finally broke her, not finally, but her Forerunner 210 finally broke, which is like a watch from a gazillion years ago, this morning, and so we were texting back and forth, and I think she's going to go with the Vivoactive 3 as her next running watch. I think it's a great little watch. Elite Direto stepper motor hums like crazy. Toddson says it's normal. Unfortunately, it is normal. So the Direto has Elite Direto trainer, awesome trainer, well-priced trainer. Like I would say the best trainer of the year in terms of the price point, all that kind of stuff and features. They have two suppliers for the stepper motor. One is totally silent and one is not totally silent. It's led to a lot of confusion, depending, and it's totally random as to which one you get. It sounds sort of like an old dot matrix printer, not that loud, but it's depending on the person, it can feel louder than it should be. In any case, sort of annoying. I think it's kind of weird that you'd have two suppliers of that differences there, but I know at the same time Elite is so swamped with orders that they've had to kind of do what they had to do to get orders out. I heard someone say somewhere, and I don't know if it's actually true, that they were looking to consolidate down to the silent stepper motor going into 2018. I don't know if that's happened or not yet. Let's see. Peter asked, do you still prefer the GoPro Fusion over the Garmin Virb 30? No, so I actually don't prefer the Fusion. I think the Fusion has maybe more potential, but at this point I think it's still kind of early. A Fusion is in a lot of ways kind of a repeat of GoPro Karma without being that bad. GoPro Karma drone was horrendous in a lot of different ways. Technically, mechanically, because it fell out of the sky, software-wise, like really, really bad. They got just dominated. The Fusion is actually a lot of potential. They're just not there yet. And so I've got one. I bought one floating around somewhere. It does put together some really, really nice video. It looks really nice. It's not as actually high res as Garmin's is. Garmin's is a higher resolution, just slightly. And the audio is really cool on the Fusion, but it's just gigantic. It's too big. It's too clunky, and I think it needs some software focus as well as some hardware focus. Let's see. Scrolling down. Any predictions on the V800 replacement device? Other than the time frame, which Polar said is next spring. They said that on a podcast back a little while ago. That's what they're... I don't think we're going to see it like be massively amazing, to be honest. I think we're going to see them consolidate all the things they rolled out into other watches over the last little while. Though I would caution that they can't just do that. Like if they just basically roll out all these little updates they've done for the last little while into a new watch and call it the V900 or 850 or whatever they want to call it, it's going to get just slaughtered in the marketplace. They've got to do something unique. They got to add things like music. They got to add things like contactless payment. They got to add all the things you would expect and you see on higher end watches today. I don't, and I hope they don't go, and I don't expect them to go like Android Wear. I think that'd be a disaster for them because of the battery life and stuff for that particular watch profile. But I think they've got to do something that makes you go, wow. They've got to find partnerships with those in the industry that go, wow, this is awesome. This is what I want. And I told kind of Sunta the same thing, like, you have to stop playing catch up, which, you know, the V800 is a very capable device for 4 years ago when it first came out, and it's held its ground well and it has great accuracy on it, but, you know, there is a certain portion of the population that are going to buy a device based on accuracy and like having it be 100% accurate or like 99.999% accurate versus another device that would be 99.8% accurate, and that tiny little difference there is really hard to base your entire product line on. People look at products, they look at features, they look at how, you know, the functionality in something, and if it's missing that, they're going to go somewhere else. That's really tough for them. Richard asks, what is the best way to get Zwift rides into Garmin Connect? It is to use the options directly within Zwift to go to Garmin Connect. So there's a ability there to connect your Zwift accounts directly to Garmin Connect now. So it goes boom right there. Pretty cool. Jeff asks, what is a good economical treadmill setup for Zwift, new versus secondhand treadmill? Honestly, any treadmill that goes forward. So I've got a treadmill here. It's a horrendous piece of crap. Even though I bought it new just a couple of years ago. I mean, like, it's structurally a great thing. It's very, very sound. It's very accurate. All that stuff is great technically. It's just, it's old looking, and that's the newest I can get. So I wouldn't focus on, for Zwift, I would simply have a place to put your tablet, and that's really what you're looking for. Beyond that, it can't control the treadmill in any way. They're not integrating, to my knowledge, yet any of the GymLink stuff that Wahoo has done. I think it's going to be a little bit of time before any of that happens. So get a good foot pod that you like, and a tablet, and call it done. Let's see here. What would be on your wish list for sports watches? What's the story asks. I would say, I think having music in there is going to be like a baseline thing in 2018. I think having contactless payments is baseline in 2018. If I were like dream big, I would say having cellular connectivity in there, like we see with the Apple Watches, is ideal for certain segments of the population. And then I think streaming of music services, so Spotify for me would be my wish list. That might take to the point where I don't typically run with music, because like I find that the whole process of downloading and syncing music is just such a pain in the ass that you never do it. I end up running with the exact same like 12 tracks over and over and over and over and over again, versus if I use Spotify all day long every day. So if I could have that on there, that'd be great. And I know like there's Pandora and Deezer or whatever the heck it's called, the other platforms out there, but I'm still a Spotify person. So let's see. Dave asks, is the Kicker Climb worth upgrading my first gen kicker? Maybe. I don't know yet. They're going to be shipping in January now, is what their timelines are looking like. I think it sounds like I may have a unit in early January, but it kind of keeps on sliding depending on manufacturing. If they can get it smooth where it feels like silky smooth, then yes, I think it may be worth it if you like that sort of thing. If not, then so-so. But we'll have to see what it looks like. JK asks, when will you review the final version of the Hammerhead Karoo? Funny question. So Hammerhead, let me take a drink. Yeah. So let me scroll back up to wherever that question was. I just clicked down, and Hammerhead. So they where do we start here? So last May they announced their head unit, beautiful Android-based color display. It's mapping. Mapping's always been Hammerhead's strong suit. They previously had like this T-bone sort of tape device. It was like a T like this, and you put it in front of your bike, and it had little LED lights on it and told you which direction to go. Very, very simplistic, but ideal for like city navigation stuff. They announced back in May the Karoo head unit, and a lot of people are like, this is the Garmin killer. And I think they're doing some really cool things in navigation, some incredibly cool stuff, and very like compelling and understandable and easy to relate to navigation stuff that's really, really cool. But as I cautioned then, I'm cautioning like every single month since, the biggest challenge that Hammerhead will have will be all the other features that you expect on a head unit that you don't realize you expect. So they can be tiny little features and little things that you've gone and configured and changed on your own Garmin or Wahoo, whatever you have. And a lot of those you won't find today anyways on a Hammerhead unit, or the Karoo in particular, because they just haven't got there. And I think Wahoo had the same challenge initially where, you know, with the Element, they had the Reflect Plus in like 3 years of bike computer experience to start with. So they started like yay high, and they still had another year to go before they were like, they hit the groove with the Bolt, which is identical software to the Element. And so Hammerhead is like effectively starting here in terms of all those features that, you know, some features matter to you, some features matter to me, some features are inverse of that, and that's going to be a long process. So anyways, the background for that and why I mentioned this is that they had stated a week or so ago they were shipping out to people. They started shipping. We had kind of traded some emails back and forth a little bit on that and saying, hey, where do you have time for reviewing it or something like that? And they said, well, right now we want to focus on shipping to customers first, which I'm totally fine with. That's fine with me. It's cool. I get that. I did purchase a unit, but mine is further down the list because I just was lazy and get around to ordering it. So that's fine. They said by the end of January or maybe early February, they'd have kind of that point in the process. So totally fine. But then like people started emailing me that had received a unit, and it became clear that they weren't actually shipping out units to regular people. They were shipping out units to a very small group of closed beta testers, and they were asking them to be very selective in what information they posted online and having to prove everything through them first. And it basically became like a realization that they weren't shipping at all. They were simply having an extended beta program, yet telling everyone else they were shipping to the masses, which to me is a bit deceiving. Like if they just said, hey, we're still running behind, we want to ship out this to beta testers first to make sure it's working, and then first week of January we're going to go off and go from there. That's cool, and I've got like all these emails people forward to me, which just as a general hint to companies, people send me everything, like everything. And I love that, by the way. So it's really hard to get away with lies, and so this is something that I called them out on this late last night actually, and kind of in some comments and stuff, and now actually literally just like 20 minutes ago, the CEO emailed me and a really long kind of apology sort of thing that they're gonna make it right to everyone else. So I don't really care if they make it right to me. There's nothing to make right to me, but they need to be clear with their backers about where they actually stand on shipping, and not lying. That's no way to put it. It's lying. It is what it is. So hopefully that'll happen very shortly, and I hope they'll do the right thing there. I think again they have a great potential for technology, but they've got to just deal with the hand they've been dealt right now, which is a really long answer to when I'll have a final review. I'll have a final review when I have a unit that is the same as what everyone else is getting out there. So I don't have a unit right this second, therefore I can't do that. Let's see. Cramp Fradler. Bought Garmin Vector 3 power meter pedals and Edge 1030, getting them maybe tomorrow. Any additional advice besides the standard installations calibration? Coming from an Edge 820 with this is my first power meter. Awesome, you're more or less good to go. My only recommendation is install the pedals, jump on a trainer if you've got one indoors, otherwise just do a loop around your block, and do like 2 to 4 sprints of like 4 to 8 seconds each. That's it, simple as that. So just get them nice and tight and then go for those quick little sprints. That just helps settle things and set them in there, and then do another 0 offset, and you're good to go. Also, do not forget to set the crank length, and it prompts you to do this, so it's not something you're going to accidentally forget. And that's just simply on the inside of your crank arm, right below where you stick the pedal through. You'll see it right there, like 172.5, 175. That's important to get good, accurate data. Other than that, it's as simple as that. Gaston asks from Argentina. Hello, Gaston. Maybe that's not actually how you pronounce it. That's how I think you might pronounce it. When do you think Phantom 5 will be launched in the Mavic Pro 2? I would bet no later than this spring, my guess. Maybe sooner than that. Not really sure. I saw some like rumor stuff the other day, talking about maybe CES, maybe not. Historically speaking, DJI has actually not done a lot of consumer stuff at CES. They've done some of the Osmo, like handheld gimbal stuff, and they've done some industrial stuff. But historically, they haven't launched a consumer drone at CES. I don't know if they'll do that again. I can see their logic. They can hold their own. The same reason Apple doesn't go to CES or doesn't launch at CES. DJI is at CES, but they can hold their own stage on any random day of the year they want to. So there's really no reason for them to get drowned out in the noise of CES, which is sort of the challenge. Like if you're a big brand, like even a Garmin, I think the brands are realizing that from a tech standpoint, with media entities like The Verge and Engadget producing like 300 posts a day of news coming out of CES, that your story lasts for a couple seconds or a couple minutes at the top of that page. It's kind of a wasted opportunity. Whereas if you're a smaller brand, then you have lots of media potential there because there are so many people there that you might not get otherwise. So you got to kind of balance those two. Anyways, my expectation is sometime in the spring. I think I'd be surprised if they didn't. Vologi asks, any opinion on bone connecting earphones when riding a bike? I'm not a big earphone while bike person. I think it's just a bit asking for trouble. I don't mind so much the helmet. I've got the Coros Lynx helmet, but they just announced I'm doing the Coro Omni, I think it is, a helmet that like uses jawbone induction on the side like this. So it doesn't actually block your ears. It basically goes right against the jawbone there, and that way you can hear everything else around you still, and you can hear the music. That I'm cool with. I've even tried it in the city here. It works great. Busy Saint-Germain Boulevard, which is just like packed with cars and buses and everything. There's no problems hearing all the traffic behind me. Let's see. James Richard, 4i podium review in the works. Not at the moment, actually. Not right now. Maybe down the road. But I've got. I think the Stages Dual is somewhere between the States and here right now, and the Shimano power meter just landed yesterday. Maybe it was this morning. Either way, it's sitting upstairs, so I've gotta get that on the bike as well. Jose asked me to turn up the volume, please. I can turn up a little bit more. There we go. How about that? Hopefully that helps a little bit. If not, you can just give me another bump there. Jeffrey asked, when is the climb finally coming? Just talked about this a little bit ago, so you probably, by the time I got your question, answered it, but essentially January is the current plan. Pablo asked, should there be any difference between the measurement of power between power pedals and a trainer? Yes, definitely. So drivetrain loss is a real thing. It happens. So you measure power, like the highest valued power will be effectively the pedal or the cleat if you had a cleat power meter, but there's none of those currently on the market. And it goes down the further down the bike you go. So you go from cleat to, I guess technically below cleat would be insole, to cleat, to pedal, to crank arm, to crank spider, to, looking at the bike here also missing, maybe like a chain-based one, and then you get to hub, and then that's it, so the wheel hub. So you're looking at usually a couple % of drivetrain loss, depending on how clean your drivetrain is, and so mine is typically pretty not clean, so maybe a little more, but just keep that in mind. So that's totally normal to have differences there between a pedal and a trainer. The trainer should, in theory, always be lower. Goodman from Iceland checking in. Hello, Goodman. That is awesome. I'm hoping to get to Iceland next summer. That's like our maybe on the list plan, is to go like rent an RV, rent a motorhome, a camper, whatever you want to call it, and do Iceland for a couple weeks with babies in tow. It'll be fun. Let's see. Rob, thanks for all you do. Your video and audio streaming quality is great here in Atlanta. Awesome, good to see. As long as my video and audio streaming quality is better than your airport power quality, we are good to go. Mike asked for the best waterproof sports camera for basic, nothing fancy, with regards to price and ease of use. I would say the GoPro Hero 5 Session, which is now down to $199. Like, boom, done. Like, that's an awesome deal right now. That's, I don't know if that, yeah, I think that is permanent price now. That's an incredible deal. For that tiny little cube camera, $199, 4K recording, seriously, it's totally waterproof, just end of story, that's it. Sean Murphy asks, best options for a dual power meter, best bang for the buck. Best bang for the buck would probably be the Watt Team Powerbeat G2s. There's like a tiny little caveats there, but that's probably the best bang for the buck. They're, I think, at $399 for dual right now, which is just insane. Claudio asks, is it worth it in your opinion to buy Fenix 3 for an amateur triathlete, or better wait for the Fenix 5 to price drop? You'll be waiting a long time for Fenix 5 price drop, to be honest, at this point. Beyond the one they have right now, by the way. So I'd like to see it drop more than that. I think right now it's on sale for $100 off, which is a pretty good deal, I think. That's actually a really solid deal. I personally wouldn't invest in a Fenix 3 at this point because of the fact that apps, like even Garmin's own Running Power app, won't be compatible with it going forward. Certainly a lot of apps are compatible with it, but you're going to see, as we, especially going into 2018, with the software version that's on the Fenix 3, you're going to see more and more apps that won't be compatible, and that's kind of a sad panda story. David Grimes just joined. Have you looked at the Neo pedaling dynamics that they released in the upgrade this week? I haven't. I'm aware of them, but I haven't thrown them on my trainer and done that. It's something I may do this week, probably more like next week though, just trying to get through a few other things. But yeah, I think it's cool stuff. Paul asks, a Cyclic CE or GoPro? Not endorsement, but just your preference. Depends on what you're looking for, to be honest. Like if you want to capture a really cool scene on your bike, like in a race or just wherever you're doing, GoPro all the time. If you want to use it for like a safety cam type thing, then Cyclic all the time. Like neither is great at what the other do, but both can do what the other does. If that makes sense. Like, as I mentioned with the GoPro Hero 5 session a few minutes ago, like that is an awesome camera for a bike camera. It's what you'll see on the Pro Peloton, to be honest. Like when you see all those GoPro videos, they're shot in conjunction with a company called Velon, an organization called Velon, and they're all shot on GoPro Hero 5 sessions. Let's see. Why is there no option to Levick? Why is there no option to resume an activity on the Edge 25? It saves the ride when you turn it off to save the battery. I don't know. I don't know. Sorry. I don't know. I haven't really used the Edge 25 a ton, other than kind of some initial testing back a year or so ago. Alexandra asks, "Is this live? Really?" It is definitely live. Live, and you can ask questions. And I just read your question. What is the big difference between the Tacx Neo and the Flux price? Is the price worth it for the Neo? It depends on whether you're Europe or in the US, to be honest. I don't think it's worth it in the US because it's basically double the price. In Europe, they're much closer in price. I love the Neo. I love that it's virtually quiet, though you still got noise from a fan if you have a fan out there. I love the fact that it like shakes in cobblestones and stuff like that in the Zwift. I love that it's incredibly accurate. The Flux Tacx did actually decrease, however you want to state it. They made it more accurate, or they made their claim more accurate on the Flux from, I think it was 3.5% down to 3 or 2.5, somewhere in there. They made it more accurate. I haven't played with it a lot though since they made that claim with their firmware adjustment and stuff. To be clear, I think for most people the Flux is an awesome trainer and you really won't go wrong there, just like the Elite Direto is an awesome trainer at that same price point. What are the best carbon wheels for the money and aerodynamics? I do not get too much into like the aerodynamic side of things. I'm trying to think who does. Let's see, like Tom Nolt does testing of rolling resistance, which may be definitely a good place to start some of that research there. And then Slow Twitch is another great place to ask about aerodynamic data from a unbiased source, if you will. So like go into the Slow Twitch forums, ask your question, and prepare to be like slaughtered by less than helpful comments, but you'll get a lot of helpful comments if you dig through those. So you get some people that will give you shit, but then you get a bunch of people that will give you actually legit, incredibly detailed information. Some of the best, not some of the best, the best aero people in the world are floating around the Slow Twitch comments section of the forums, so you can kind of find your answers there. It's for triathletes, but they won't hurt you too much for being a roadie. Is there anything we can do as a community to help your channel grow? I'd say 1, subscribe if you didn't subscribe, so hit that subscribe button up there. I really appreciate that. And then 2, definitely just share videos and hit the like button. That sounds silly, but those are like the biggest things when YouTube and others evaluate, you know, like algorithms, things like that. You know, watching a video at the end really helps a lot. It's about, you know, clicking the like button so that they know that video is useful to people. Those are the things that really mean the most to me, and then sharing that video out on social media or wherever you want to share it on. That'd be really appreciated. But thanks, awesome. Let's see. Scrolling down here. Oh, I just clicked too far down now. Way too far down. Probably, maybe, I'm not sure how it works on the non like presenter side of YouTube, this chat window thing, but like you scroll and then you got this blue button that allows you to go down skip, but it does it automatically, so you can't really, it's just really cumbersome. I don't understand why it's so complex. Like it should just be easy to scroll through this never-ending thing without skipping a bunch. Let's see. Is it logical to use a smartwatch and head unit on a ride? Yeah, I actually prefer a head unit on a ride as opposed to a smartwatch, but you can use both of them. A lot of people do, in fact. Let's see. Please choose for me Cyclops Hammer or Wahoo Kicker. If you're planning on getting a climb, then go with the Wahoo Kicker. If you can get a good deal on a hammer, then go with the hammer. The biggest, like, the Wahoo Hammer is great. There's really nothing wrong with it. It's just, it's not the kicker, which is really, it's, you feel bad for Cyclops here because everyone told them to go out and build a kicker, and they built a kicker, and now everyone's like, oh, you built a great kicker, I'm gonna buy the kicker. And there's no reason to not buy, and like, it's, you kind of feel bad for them. There's nothing that they can change at this point because they basically made a better kicker at the time. The Kicker 3 came out now, and it's got sort of the additional through axle pieces that the Hammer had that the Kicker 1 and 2 didn't really have, and so it's tough. Like, there is, software wise, most people support both of them. There are some scenarios that only support the Wahoo Kicker and apps. That's something to keep in mind. Michael asks, when was the last time you used a hacksaw on the pegboard over your shoulder? Trying to think when I used that for last. Definitely, I was cutting these. We had a stack. So this is the DCR cave, to back up for a second. Above me is the cake studio, my wife's bakery, and upstairs is mostly custom orders. So like big wedding cakes and hundreds or thousands of cupcakes and stuff like that. And we had to figure out a way to stack cupcakes on these baking sheets to go deliver across town. So sort of like you see on Top Chef, where you wrap up a big rack, where you put all the stuff in the rack, wrap up the rack, and go. We do the same thing, except we can't fit a rack into any vehicle we have. We don't have trucks to move things around. So we have these standard issue big cake sheets, and I had to go ahead and make risers so that if I stacked one sheet on top of the next sheet, as you can imagine, a cupcake has squishy stuff on top, the frosting. So if I went down like this, it would squish, and that would be a gigantic fail. So I used PVC piping, and I put them in the four corners, and I cut them with a hacksaw. Well, I started with that, and then eventually, after realizing I had to do like 40 of these sheets, because we had, I think it was like 1,200 cupcakes, wherever it was, for this initial one that triggered this entire thing. And so I eventually got just a power saw out and made a complete mess of the entire cave. But that's the last time I think I've used that. So more than you wanted to know. And by the way, we still have all those little things everywhere. Any thoughts on the Peloton bike? I think the Peloton bike is flipping brilliant. I think it's awesome. If I could buy one and get one shipped here to Europe, I would. But they won't ship overseas. And I tried to get one for review. They weren't really interested in that, which is fine. Maybe on one of my trips to the US, I may actually like ship one to a hotel and then carry it on the plane. I'll see how well that works. But yeah, I think it's really well done. Cool stuff. Let's see. Claudio asked, do you use a headlamp? If so, which one? I don't typically use one on my head. Riding in the city here, I usually put lights on the bikes if I'm riding bikes in the city. For the most part, I don't tend to ride my road like regular riding bikes at night. I ride like a commuter bike or the Virb here in the city at night, which I do every single day. But they have lights on them. If I'm going for a ride at night, or I think it's going to get dark out, I sort of just pull whatever's in the drawer that's charged. So it could be like the Garmin Vario lights, it could be the Bontrager lights, it could be just random lights sitting around. I'm not so great at that. It's just kind of like a last minute decision. Let's see. Liam asks, so much lag, or says so much lag. Yeah, lag is really my fault. It's the fact that I'm this far behind on questions more than anything else. Have you seen Robidoo asks, have you seen the PETA drone on Kickstarter? I haven't. I will look at it right now and give you my feedback on this, but I haven't in large part because I've stopped buying drones on Kickstarter. It's taken a lot of restraint. It's sort of like being addicted to some sort of substance. Kickstarter is the same way. But yeah, I think buying drones on Kickstarter is just a general fail. So looking at this one right now, oh wow, it's really small. It's like the size of a, so it's PETA, P-I-T-T-A, which by the way is the worst name ever because PETA is short for pain in the ass. So this is it's a transformative autonomous 4K selfie drone. It looks really cute. It's really nice and small. Right now it's got, it looks cool. How much is it? $268. Don't tempt me. Don't get me started on this. When's it gonna be due? It's estimated April? No. If I see a CES, maybe. If I see a CES in a couple weeks, they've got 44 days left in the campaign. They've only got 13,000 out of 42,000 pledge, which is pretty low for a drone project, even if it is first day. Yeah, I would say if I can see a CES and see it in person, maybe. But drone companies in general suck, and really DJI is just dominating this landscape with their technology. It's really hard for others to catch up. Adam asks if I speak French. I can in certain situations where I feel like it. I'm really good at food, as I've said in the past. I'm good in day-to-day interactions, but I'm like horrible at politics or anything like that. I can generally read French better than I can speak French. It's funny because here in Paris, if I speak something wrong in French, if I get something wrong, people instantly switch back to English. If I was like in the Pyrenees or in the Alps, they won't. Then I keep on going in French. They kind of force you, which is what I need. But for most of my time that I've lived here, I was traveling every week for work out of France. So I'd be in China or in Brazil or in Australia or Canada or US, or pick any country in the world. There's like 80 of them I've been to, and none of those spoke French. So I spoke English every day, all day long, which I didn't ever go to an office here in France. So that kind of hurt me a little bit, but I can get by. Let's see. Geronimo, yeah. Hey, I'm looking for a good interactive trainer. I'm thinking an Elite Direto. Am I right in my decision? Yes, that is a great interactive trainer. You cannot go wrong there. Awesome stuff. Ian asks, how many reports of the Kicker 17 with grinding noises while coasting? Not many. I don't remember any Kicker 17 grinding noise while coasting. There is, however, the noise of your free hub spinning, which some people have mistaken for something going wrong. But grinding you should not hear. I don't remember what trainer. Some trainer recently, somebody sent me a video of something grinding when they stopped, but I don't actually remember what trainer that was. It could have been Kicker, could have been Elite, could have been Tacx. I don't remember offhand, but there was something there that was that way. But a lot of times it's simply the free hub, that kind of whirring sound that you hear. That is totally 100% normal on all trainers. HNG LDR asks, any news on when the Kicker Climb will finally be available? January is the current plan. Chris, best gimbal for the Virb 360? No gimbal. It can gimbalize, internally stabilize itself. You have no need for a gimbal. I've got a video that I've yet to publish. I don't know why I haven't published it. It's kind of hilarious. I did back in like June. I tied a Virb 360 camera using fishing line about 10 meters or so below a DJI Mavic, and I flew it up in Newfoundland, Canada, way over the icebergs and stuff. And the camera was spinning like 3 times a second, like this. And I stabilized it using the software, using Virb's own software afterwards. And while it's not like perfectly stable forward, it's kind of like rotates like this a little bit very slowly. Mind-boggling. Like it's going 3 times a second, circling around, and it's really, really impressive. So simple stuff is no problem. If I can tie it with fishing line to a drone, then it'll be good otherwise. And you can see some of my stabilized footage as well. It looks really, really smooth. Elite Direto or Flux or Neo for a non-regular cyclist? I would say Elite Direto is probably your best bet there. Or even go a little bit cheaper, to be honest, and get something like the Kicker Snap, the Cyclops, Magnus. Yeah, Magnus is a great one as well. You can save a bit more money and that'd be an option. Corey asked virtually the same thing, Flux or Direto. Again, I personally think Direto is a little bit quieter unit than the Flux. I think the Flux to me sounds kind of grinding, almost like a gravel grinding feeling to it. So that's sort of my feeling on that. But I totally get, as Corey says there, the Direto availability is so bad right now. And it's true, it's so far back ordered. So double check who you're ordering it from and see what they say. And kind of make your decision based on that. Like if it's saying late January, then honestly go off and get a Flux. You'll be happy with it, or get something else. I promise you'll still be happy. Terry asks, what is the difference of Apple TV to running an Alienware Alpha for Zwift? So the person you want to check on that is GP Llama on, just like open up a new window in YouTube. Don't change this window right now. And type at the top, type GP Llama Zwift. Or not GP Llama, type GP Llama Zwift Apple TV. Otherwise you'll get a gazillion of his videos. But Apple TV one he did, it's like 14 to 18 minutes long. And he goes through Zwift 4K Apple TV 4K, Apple TV regular, Alienware, and I think even iPad or something like that in there as well. And shows you side by side the differences of those. For me personally, I'm totally good with the Apple TV. I can definitely appreciate the graphic capabilities of a higher end PC. And he goes through the nuances of things like shadows on light poles and stuff that you would see that you don't necessarily see in different Apple TV versions, but I like the simplicity of the Apple TV version. I've been primarily using the iPad before that for my Zwifting, and now I've just gone to the 4K Apple TV. Definitely do go the 4K version of Apple TV, even if you don't have a 4K TV, because the processing capability is so much higher on Apple TV 4K than it is on the regular one. And as Shane shows in that video, it's definitely pretty substantial. HNG LDR, have you gotten to see or try the Kicker Climb since the unveiling event to see about the smoothing? No, I haven't touched it since then. I know Wahoo they don't have a booth, they have like a hospitality suite at CES in 2 weeks, so I'm sure they'll have it there to poke around at. Let's see, Liam asked about the lag in the chat. Yeah, so a bit there. I gotta scroll back up here. Let's see. Wow, further than I thought. Okay. Oh, looks like Mode asks, already told him to check out chain wheel or side-by-side comparison. Perfect, there we go. Sasha, I need a new tri-watch. Am I better to buy new or secondhand? Depends on what you're looking to spend, to be honest. There's some great deals on tri-watches now through the end of the month or through the 24th. So go check out the deals page. If you don't know that, by the way, I have a huge deals page of all like the holiday deals. So it's just dcrainmaker.com/deals 2017. List them all there. There are some tri-watches that are having great sales right now. It's definitely worthwhile to hit those up. I would generally prefer to buy something new over used just because of the watch. You don't, especially a tri-watch that like triathletes, I'm a triathlete, beat the crap out of their equipment. It hits the side of the pool, it hits things, and with watches and waterproofing, if someone's dropped it on concrete or like hit the side of the pool way too many times, it could crack and then you go into the water and it dies and it's sad. So I'd be less concerned about a running watch, but like for a triathlon watch, if you're swimming, that'd be my 2 cents there. Let's see. Mikola, hi from Ukraine. Hello. What is my Zwift name? I think my Zwift name is D.C Rainmaker, I think. Maybe it's just DC.Rainmaker. You'll find me that way. I don't really know exactly. I created it a long time ago, like when Zwift was off. Let's see if I can log in and tell you exactly what it is. If you're a Rainmaker, I guarantee you will find it, I think. So maybe not really a guarantee, like a half a guarantee. Let's see if I can find it while I'm sitting here. Where is it on the Zwift page? I need like a Zwift person to help me out on this. Edit profile, name. Shows name here is just Ray Space Maker. So maybe it's just our maker. Maybe that's it. I guess that's maybe it. Sorry, I don't really know. Let's see, my Alexander's asking, my Fenix 5 is showing big altimeter inconsistencies in the cold weather. Start and finish are 100 meters apart. Any common problem possible to Garmin to correct elevations in Garmin automatically? You can correct elevations in Garmin Connect by hitting the little button there to correct them. My guess is that the barometer hasn't adjusted yet. So like my guess is that you've gone outside and kind of started quickly and it may not be adjusting quite yet. So you may want to like just stick your watch outside if you can for a few minutes to let it sort of stabilize. In theory, it's supposed to be getting that data from GPS and doing a fix there initially, and then it goes from that. But if like it's under your glove and stuff and you're changing temperatures, it may be thinking there's actually a shift in from the sensor side of things. So that could be the problem there. Z Garabel, thank you for watching. Garrett Weber asks, should I still get the Neo or is there a better competitor in the making? No, I don't think there's anything like the Neo right now. Obviously there's a Kicker plus the Climb if you buy those two together, about the same price as the Neo. But you won't see any new trainers realistically until next summer again, or next summer. Next year is in mid-July. It's the worst time of year. It's like it starts the same day as the Tour to France. I may not even go next year. I'm contemplating that. Like it's really, really bad set of 3 days. I'm not sure, so we'll see. Anyways, that's when you'll see more trainer announcements, is my guess. Let's see. Planet Gas. I read the pedal spacing on the Peloton bike is not good. You're probably talking Q factor. It could be, yeah. Q factor varies on a lot of things. Like it's different on indoor spin bikes to road bikes to mountain bikes. I think Q factor in general is overrated. People think about it too much, and in reality, like we change Q factor all the time on things, we don't even realize it, especially going from mountain biking to road biking, for example, have different Q factors. So it kind of depends a little bit there. But yeah, it's definitely, I haven't really spent a lot of time on it. Let's see, Roy asks, GoPro Hero 5 or 6? If you're going with the Hero 6, sorry, if you're going with the Hero 5 Black, they just dropped the price down again to $299. That makes it really damn compelling. Like I would I would look at the features on the Hero 6 and see if it's worthwhile to you to spend the extra $200. But I think for most people now, GoPro has actually sort of shot themselves in the foot here, where they should have dropped that price down as well, because the Hero 6 is $499. It used to be like Hero 6 $499, Hero 5 Black $399, Hero 5 Session $299. Then everything just dropped $100. So Hero 5 Session went to $199, Hero 5 Black went to $299, and Hero 6 it didn't go anywhere. It stayed there. So now you have this $200 gap, which is a massive gap for what is a small number of features. And yeah, if you're really into action cameras, then the Hero 6 Black is awesome. I love it. I've bought a couple of them. I've also bought a couple of GoPro Hero 5s, and if someone like gave me one or the other and said, hey, I need this just for the day, like it wouldn't really matter to me. I'd be able to get the job done. Mr. Shane Miller GP Llama is in the house. He asked tips for a cyclist trying to run a 5-minute kilometer pace for 6 kilometers. 6 kilometers, isn't it a 10K race? Or are you running the 5K race too long? I gotta work on that. We'll go for a run together in a couple weeks. Intervals. Like it's just intervals. That's the secret to running that every runner, it's all about intervals. Intervals are valuable on the bike, but they're also far more valuable in running. And having a consistent diet of intervals in your weekly running it's huge. It's really important. It's the thing that'll get you the fastest, the quickest. Being able to have ideally 2 interval sessions per week. One of them could be more like a tempo run, is without question the best way to get fast really, really quick. But we can also go for lots of runs when I'm down in Australia shortly. Let's see, I have a Tacx Neo. My bike is at 10 speed and would, I clicked the wrong button again to scroll down too fast. Oh man, there we go. Would an 11 speed be quieter? It's definitely good, but not silent, noisy drivetrain. Definitely, like if you're running a Neo on a 10 speed with 11 speed or vice versa, get the right cassette. It'll be super silent. I actually do that a fair bit more than you might think, because I've got on my Neo 11 speed, but my slightly older Cervelo P3 C triathlon bike is a 10 speed for some really odd reason, and thus when I'm too lazy to swap cassettes out, which is almost all the time, it goes on there and I just sort of deal with it. It is super noisy and annoying. So yeah. Claudio asks, which races will you run in 2018? How about a meetup run with the DCR community? So we just had a meetup run 2 weeks ago here in Paris, so the DCR annual open house. I definitely have another one of those next year for the cave. I don't really know my race schedule. I'm kind of plotting some run triathlons in Australia because I'll be down there for the next 3 months. So there's a couple different triathlons in Perth that I'm looking at in February and in March that I've kind of like mentally signed up for. I haven't actually clicked the button yet, but that's my current plan. And then once I get back here to Europe and after that, I don't know, I think definitely some races. I just haven't looked that far out. I think kind of one of the cool parts is that if you're not doing an Ironman race, you can get away with not having a plan like that far out. In Europe, I find in general you can sign up for races, at least in France anyways, a lot closer to the actual race versus in the US, a lot of those big races sell like overnight. So I had to think about it last year. I think about it more in the US than I would here. Patrick Baker, what happened to the Watt Bike review? It's up. So the Watt Bike review, not necessarily like a video, but the final in-depth review is on the site, dcrainmaker.com. You can read all about it there. I go into way more detail than you'd ever want. Everything like accuracy, all that stuff is in there. So go check that out. Chris asked, do you think Wahoo will come out with a running watch in the future? Any thoughts on when power will innate for stride units in Garmin watches? I think Wahoo's sort of like checking off boxes down the road of things they're doing, and I think it's only natural for them eventually to get to that point. They've got a bike trainer, they've got a bike doohickey that goes up and down, they've got bike sensors, they've got running sensors, they've got a lot of products in the works, bike head units. Keep in mind I started off as a running company originally, so like with their different sensors, heart rate straps and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised for them to eventually kind of go into that marketplace. Let's see. P90, how is Peanut 1 adjusting to Peanut 2? Last week had no post, well-deserved break, Merry Christmas, Ray. Peanut 1, that's our older daughter, which is 18 months now, loves Peanut 2. Peanut 2 is a happy little camper. She sleeps a lot. She's really, really quiet. Like Peanut 1, she was a little firecracker. Like when she was born until almost now, she's either really, really happy or really, really upset. There's very little middle ground where she's just calm. And Peanut 2 is definitely just calm. Just always calm. It's kind of nice. Last week had no post. Yeah, it's been kind of crazy here. What you can't see is that literally, like, where's my arm? There we go. So right there is out of frame. Right there is boxes. Lots and lots of boxes. And so I mentioned this in the past. I'm moving to a bigger DCR cave, and so I've been trying to box stuff up and move it, and it's been a lot of work. As you might imagine, it's just so much stuff. I spent all today boxing stuff. There are boxes piled up to the ceiling here, boxes everywhere, except this little window. Like I kept this window. This is probably will be the last live stream I've done here. This is the last like window of normalness, and just outside, like right here on this side, the shelves are completely empty. Right above me, the shelf is totally empty. This is actually the only part that's not empty right now, and there's just boxes everywhere. So it's been a lot of stuff. Also, some products that were not products, but like big updates of sorts that were supposed to be announced last week didn't happen. So I posts that were prepped for those, and then they got slid, they got moved, they got delayed, they got whatever, and so therefore my posts get delayed, which kind of sucks. Like sometimes you probably just think I'm being super lazy, but it's usually because something has shifted behind the scenes, and so yeah. Let's see, a couple more questions, then I get it going. It's time to eat dinner, a belated dinner, but I get a very French dinner. Let's see. Danielle asked, do you remember the Sony Ericsson Xperia Active you once reviewed? I do remember the little watch. I stuck it on the end of a rowing paddle and threw it in the air to show you how durable it was. Do you plan on doing some more review on sport-oriented phones? No, not really, to be honest. It's sort of out of my bailiwick, and I think these days there's like a lot of folks in the YouTube that cover cover phones really, really well. So nothing like that today, unfortunately. John asks, when is the Climb coming out? January. Let's see. You think there's a possible setup for the Climb on Neo? No, because they basically hard locked that from a software standpoint. So behind the scenes, the way it works is that the Kicker talks directly to the Climb. Your app, like Zwift and stuff, doesn't ever talk to the Climb directly. It talks to the Kicker, and the Kicker tells the Climb what to do. So there's no interaction there. It did sound like Wahoo was potentially open to making that some sort of standard there for other people to interact with it, but I don't think they're like that open. That was sort of like offhanded. Maybe we'll do that sort of thing, but probably not. Let's see. Hi, do you think the Elite, I'm going to try to pronounce her name, the name Gusup? Double G, man. Hope you're a man. Can't tell from the icon. Do you think Elite is going to update its Drivo Smart Trainer to improve erg mode? I don't think they're making any changes there. I didn't see my erg mode experience with Trainer Road anyways was really actually quite good, very, very stable, incredibly stable. So I don't think we'll see any changes there. I think that was actually the most stable I've ever seen a trainer before. Adrian asked, are there any good alternatives for the PowerPod that I can easily swap between bikes and keep my SPDSLs? No, that's about it, to be honest. Yeah, other than like swapping cranksets and stuff like that. That's unfortunately it. Let's see. Neil asks, is running power the new clickbait? It's a funny comment. It's funny. It's funny in a lot of ways. I'll leave that one alone for now. But yeah, apparently it is. I think it used to be anything that mentioned Garmin and Strava. I think yeah, some folks are really into publishing stuff on running power, but I sort of publish when I think it's like, I don't like to publish a lot of things about the same thing. I like just say like, boom, that's my thought on it, and done for a while. So like when running power from Garmin was announced, or from Stride, or from RunScribe, whoever, I put my post out and that's it. And then down the road, if I was going to do a review, and I did one in the case of Garmin running power, I drop one there, and I'll do one for Stride and RunScribe as well. But I don't tend to like just keep posting about stuff, which it's cool if people do that, but just sort of not my thing. Neil asks, since Hammerhead has been shown to be not truthful concerning the shipping of the Karoo and also in other areas, do you think the Karoo is no longer a computer to be considered any longer? I don't know if I go that far yet. I'm pleased to see, and if you missed the whole Hammerhead Karoo thing, then rewind like a long ass time ago, like 45 minutes ago. I talked about that in depth and what kind of going on right there right now. I do think, you know, their email from the CEO founder tonight about their, we'll call them mistakes, is a good starting point. I think, again, their technology is impressive on the mapping side. I think it's got a long way to go on the other pieces, and they know that. Like, they know which pieces they need to do. I think, like, if we come back to the Karoo a year from now in 2019, I think it'll be very similar to where Wahoo is now with the Bolt, in terms of being a legit competitor. People say, yes, do I want the Edge 520 or do I want the Wahoo Bolt? I think a year from now they'll say, hey, do I want the Edge 1030 because it's really that kind of targeting the higher end, or I don't want the Wahoo Element, or do I want the Karoo, Hammerhead Karoo? And I think that'll be a good competitive point. I think in the meantime, though, they're going to have to be more focused on the mapping side and then make that their case for why they're doing something unique in that area, and doing it so much better that you say, I don't care about the features, I want the Hammerhead for this particular mapping functionality. Let's see. Neil says, I went to the doctor 2 weeks after our P2 was born. Just saying. I was at the doctor today with P1. She had shots. She was not at all excited about that. Guy, depending on whether it's either Guy Henry or Guy Henry, asks, realize now that my newer Mac does not support HEVC and just got the Hero 6 options. Update your Mac. It does. It really does. So as long as you got a newer Mac, like in the last year or two, or 3 even, it does. So update your version of Mac OS and update Final Cut Pro if that's what you're using. That was updated last week. Mac OS was updated a few month and a half or so back. So those definitely do support it as of now natively. Let's see, how many more questions here? Not too many more. So last call for questions. Going to wrap this up here in a second. Carlos asks, I need a laptop tablet Surface for Zwift with the Neo Pro. What would you suggest? An iPad or Apple TV? Actually, I suggest Apple TV, to be honest. Apple TV 4K, $170, $79, something like that. It's really the best deal for getting Zwift. It's like the cheapest way to get Zwift up and running. That's what would be my suggestion. Constantine, do we wait until after Christmas before we buy ourselves the first trainer because of price drops? There will be no price drops after Christmas, before Christmas, or any other time. If you see a trainer right now on sale, grab it. That is your last stop for getting a trainer on sale. The next time you'll see trainers on sale will be basically late spring, after you care about trainers. Yep. Billy asks, are Vector 3 pedals easy to transfer between bikes? Yes. Unlike Vector 1 and Vector 2, you can transfer Vector 3 pedals back and forth between bikes incredibly quickly. I did it the other day in a video that I think I published here. I think I published it. If I didn't publish it, sorry. But I did it in under 60 seconds, swapping the pedals. So, let's see. Claudio asks, what will you have for dinner? We're making breakfast sandwiches for dinner. It's been that kind of day. When you spend the entire day packing boxes and pulling stuff out of a dirty cave, your desire to do anything other than like putting some bacon between a cheese and an egg muffin thing is pretty low. Let's see. Pete Joyner asks, is there any chance that you can compare some of the established or emerging Zwift competitors? One Lap, Road Grand Tours, Virtual Go, and Be Cool. Definitely. I've talked about Be Cool in the past. I think they're kind of like, they're a little more stagnant these days. I want to dive into One Lap. I've dove into Road Grand Tours and haven't really published anything on it. I have not touched Virtual Go yet, but yes, I kind of want to like get some things out of that over the next few weeks here. Armenian asks, any thoughts on a good 3-axis wearable gimbal? The Fuyutech is really the best one, or the GoPro Karma Grip is actually not bad. It's definitely more durable than the Fuyutech ones, but it's also more pricey for the features. You don't get as many features as the Fuyutech, but it's pretty good to wear on your chest, whereas the Fuyutech you can wear on your head and stuff like that. Dirty Old Sneakers asked, any word on when GoPro will offer plugins for Final Cut Pro for the 360 camera fusion? Right now, they sound like they're kind of going to wait on that because with the Final Cut Pro update that came out on Friday or Thursday of last week, that includes that functionality natively now. So the majority of what you've got on the Premiere plugins are now native in Final Cut Pro. I personally haven't tried that yet, so I don't know like the nuances of that. Like there are some things I think that are still there in Premiere Pro that aren't there in Final Cut from like a GoPro specific standpoint, but the theory of 10.4 update for SCPX is that it does cover most of those things. Insanzio asks, would you prefer the Garmin Vector 3 or Shimano Power Meter if you only had one crank pedal but 3 bikes? Easily Vector 3. I would not want to swap the Shimano Power Meter back and forth between bikes. I have it upstairs. I haven't installed it yet. It just came in this morning or yesterday, one of these last 24 hours. It doesn't look horrible to install, but it's also not as simple as 60 seconds. That's for darn sure. Mike Gutiar, what do you think of the Karoo computer? I talked a long time about this earlier on, so rewind like 40 or so minutes to a very long-winded discussion on the Karoo computer. With that, I think we're there. So again, thank you very much. Thanks also for Planet Gas and Dirty Old Sneakers for your happy holidays and enjoyment. I really appreciate it. I will go ahead and leave you here. Do not forget to check out the site, by the way. So if you're on YouTube and you don't know I actually have a website, because I mentioned this last time, a lot of people don't realize that. Most of what I put on YouTube is like a fraction of what I publish on the site. So dcrainmaker.com is where most of my detailed analysis and opinions and stuff like that go to. So that's sort of my thing. Anyways, thanks for watching. Go and have a good one and enjoy.